Okay, James.
Okay. You ready?
Yes. Are we live? I'm not showing it on my phone.
I
Yeah,
see it.
Okay.
I see it.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition Show. My name is James Slim Overton, and I'm here with co-hosts Leah Drake Stitt and Thomas, the Colonel Chapman. What's in the glass, Colonel?
Little something.
Okay,
Yeah, something.
You're safe. You're safe, brother. Don't worry about it. Well, anyway, we're here tonight and welcome everybody on Leah's Stitt's Facebook page. And we have a special guest with us, Dr. Megan Alexandria Franco. And let me give it, before Colonel gives his disclaimer, I'll give a disclaimer. Dr. Franco is the Colonel and I cousin.
Family. It's a family affair.
And you know, we do a lot of family on this show. So, you know,
Yes, we do.
We bring in some, yeah, we bring in some good family. We bring in some good information, good informative family members. But anyway, Dr. Franco is here with us, and you'll see us go back and forth with Dr. Franco and Megan. You probably heard more of Megan than you heard Dr. Franco. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure you knew that she has that PhD. But anyway, little Megan. She started out at Princess Anne High School in Virginia Beach, and then went from there to Tidewater Community College, where she got an arts degree in liberal arts, cum laude graduate, and went from there to Regent University, where she got a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology, and Capella, is that right? Capella University. Yes. She got a Master's of Science in Counseling Psychology. And then that wasn't enough. Let's go for the PhD at Capella University out of Minnesota, where she got a PhD in nonprofit management with a specialization in social and community services. And right now she's director of social services at Bacon Street Youth and Family Services. And Megan, I want to ask you this. Well, Colonel, go ahead and give your disclaimer, and then I have a question for Megan, Dr. Franco.
Okay, for those who out there in electron land, the views stated on this program are the host and guests and no one else, and we're exclusive to ourselves. And so hopefully it'll keep us out of Facebook jail. And so we'll try to keep us out of that way.
Thanks, Colonel, appreciate that. Yeah. And Megan, we had two guests on here, and his major was political science, and ended up going into the fashion world. And then we had another attorney, but her degree was in psychology, but she ended up going into the law field. And your journey through the educational field is sort of specifically in the psychology and social service work. Was that intentional?
It was. I realized that I really enjoy working in the human services field. And so years ago, I started out doing in-home counseling. And from there, I realized that there was a high correlation between mental health and homelessness. And so it kind of made me pivot a little bit to more so focus on that social services aspect, because you would imagine, you know, someone that is struggling with some mental health issues, is kind of difficult to maintain a house, you know, paying bills and things of that nature. And so I want to make sure that we provide folks with resources so that they stay housed, that they stay, you know, taking their meds or receiving counseling services and things like that. So it's a very holistic approach, no matter what it is that I do or where I go. But you realize that there's gaps in the system. And so, you know, I look at it, where can I help out? Where can we advocate? Where can we fill those gaps?
Yeah, so your education was career specific, and so was your journey as far as occupations during that time, your jobs, because the whole time you were in school, you were working. You know, looking at the coalition, the dates when you were in school and the jobs that you had. So you were working your way through school, but all those jobs were in that particular field. You didn't go off and get a job at McDonald's while you were working on your PhD. Yeah. You stayed you stayed sort of, in line with what you are doing now. Talk a little bit about what you're doing now, and then the other hosts will chime in within the
Sure.
conversation.
Okay, so I currently am the director of social services at Bacon Street Youth and Family Services. And so we have a main office in Williamsburg, but we have 3 other locations in Hampton, around the Buckrow area. We have another one in Yorktown, and then we have another one in Gloucester. And so we serve primarily the peninsula, and we have a variety of services. We have counseling services, we have prevention services that offer really great mentoring groups and parenting groups and stuff like that. And then I oversee the social services component. So families that come in, they have to present with a substance use disorder. This could be the parent, it could be the child. You'd be surprised what some of the kids are, getting into to cope with some of the issues going on in their lives. But when they come through our doors, we can provide those wraparound services. And so what is really important for me to work on and encourage my staff to do is our clients that come through those doors, they literally need a shower, they need laundry facilities, food. So I'm not thinking about therapy, I'm not thinking about job searching, I'm not thinking about going back to school when I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't know where I'm going to eat. And so it's sort of like triage. So my staff, we step in, we help them with those immediate needs. In the Hampton location, we have a day center. So you can come in, we have showers, we have laundry facilities, computers, all those good things. And we work with them to develop a treatment plan. And then, once folks start to have that stability, then, okay, you know what, I am ready to go to therapy. I am ready to start, going to groups, or, I would like help job searching or working on a resume, or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a very individualized approach because everybody is so unique. So you need to know what the clients need from you, and making sure that they're a part of that process because it's their journey.
Hey, co-host.
Yeah, Megan, that's wonderful what you're doing. And what I am impressed after I looked at your resume and everything, and I'm seeing you going through your journey, is that you've had almost a unbroken path in higher education while you're accomplishing in that. And that's something that should be applauded and held up for all the young folks that are coming up that see you and saying, hey, if Megan did it, I can do it. And so I got to give you some claps for that, and props for that. So yes. The other thing too is you talked about your clients coming in, and on your resume, I think in your nonprofit, you've had to write grants, or will be writing grants, or somebody's writing grants for you. And so if you're looking at your clients, and are you tracking the statistical successes or failures of your clients that come through to help you in future grants?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
It's rough getting things from the state now to help anybody with the Confederates in charge now.
Yeah, so stats are huge. I have these little spreadsheets for my staff to go on. Every time you see a client, you need to be documenting that. That helps me not only with annual reports, it helps me to write grants, just as you mentioned. Folks want to know, are we going to be good stewards of the resources that they provide us? What's the plan? And letting them know too, sometimes things change. So when I started smack dab in COVID in this position. And so there was a little bit of, there was understanding that we probably weren't seeing as many folks in person, but making sure that we reported that and why that was. But we're starting to see, of course, folks are returning back to the office. We're seeing more clients in person, but stats is really important in order to get that funding. And as you mentioned, it's competitive. We have a number of partnering agencies that we partner together, but we also are the Shark Tank at the same time. We're competing for the same money. So you want to turn in a solid application and also report on what we've done for the year so that they will continue to fund us.
So saying that, now you mentioned that America is opening up. Thank you for that. Thankful that we have a president that understands science. Not like the last guy.
Not him.
So I look at the housing crisis that we're having now, and I hate to use the word crisis because there's a housing shortage because the supply is not there and the demand is up. I see more apartments are out there, they're being built more than I see single family homes. But with that, even though we have we have our historically low, almost full employment, I think it's like 3.54% in unemployment. It means anybody that really wants a job can do that. But with the housing costs going up, the affordability is not there with the interest rates going up. And so now you're going to pay $300 to $400, $500 more in a housing if you were buying a house prior to last year. So are you having more clients come to you just because I can't afford housing and I'm like they say, I'm part of the working poor?
Absolutely. That, and then with the rent moratorium being lifted,
Yeah.
we start to see a number of clients, getting evicted this past fall. And minimum wage, yes, it's gone up, but it's still not enough to keep up with the cost of rent. The cost of living in Hampton Roads is insane. I mean, everywhere, but it's very expensive. So if I'm making minimum wage and I'm working part-time, I really can't afford rent, groceries, those day-to-day things, taking care of my family. So I definitely see more clients coming through. And then also it's winter time. So we'll see more folks come to our doors that are looking for emergency shelters, which we do. We're able to partner with someone, and we have some emergency shelters going on in the peninsula, as I know some of the other cities have them as well. So that's beneficial, but that only goes from November to April. So it's kind of a temporary solution to a longer term problem. So, it's really important for us to sit down at the table, and we sit down again with a lot of partner agencies at the housing consortium, and we share resources. We make referrals to one another, trying to get housing for some of our clients. Sometimes that permanent housing, though, as you said, there's a shortage. And even with the rental assistance, it can be difficult. And for some clients, one day of missed work can completely change the matrix, for them. So
So Megan, how does one take advantage of your program? Are they referred to your program? Are they walk-ins? How do they receive the services?
a little bit of everything. So thank you for asking. I'm not sure at some point we can pin my information or something like that, or I can make sure I email it to you, but they
Please.
can walk in, they can call, they can email. In our number, if anyone, remembers, is 757-253-0111. And you can just inquire about our services, but I'll make sure I get my information to you all. But we receive court referrals, we receive referrals from probation officers, folks who walk in and refer themselves. So we're pretty open, in receiving those referrals.
And besides the housing portion of it, what other you provide counseling services?
Yes.
And what other services are provided for these individuals?
Yeah, so we have counseling services. One of our clinicians just started art therapy, which I thought was very unique. Yeah, we also have prevention services. So with the prevention, we have parenting groups, we have groups for teens, we have this mentoring program that's getting ready to kick back up for 2023. So I'm excited about that, where we'll be going into the high schools. I think we're gonna start our Newport News, if I'm not mistaken. And just like one day a week in the afternoon, just meeting with the kids, kind of talking to them and stuff like that. And they have some really great field trips during the summers, just providing the children with alternatives and healthier coping skills rather than turning to alcohol or drugs. So same thing for the parents as well, because some of our parents come through might be struggling with substance use disorders as well.
Do you do like family counseling as well? Or
Some of our
is everything-
clinicians do, yeah.
Okay.
So we do some of our clinicians specialize in specific things, maybe sexual trauma, marriage counseling, and stuff like that. So if you just call us and you do the intake, they will match you with the therapist that probably best fits and can provide you with the services that you're looking for exactly.
And you said that primarily your services now are being offered in Williamsburg and Virginia Beach and
So on the peninsula,
on the
so
peninsula.
Hampton,
Okay.
yeah, Hampton, Newport News, Williamsburg, Yorktown, all of that.
Okay.
My hope, we'll see, but my hope, eventually we can expand across the water,
Okay.
because it's definitely needed. But for right now, anybody's on the peninsula, please reach out and you need some assistance or somebody that needs something.
That's good.
That's excellent, excellent. You made a comment that I gotta follow up on, and you were the word minimum wage in our population is working out there, and what I call the working poor. In the state of Virginia, we have it's gone up to $12 an hour, which is basically you're working poor, and of that, when you draw that in conclusion, you compare that to the federal rate of $7.25, which hasn't changed in decades. And the same people that don't want to raise the minimum wages, even the state of Virginia and also on the federal rate thing, are the same Confederates that keep holding people back. But those who want a pay raise still vote for the same Confederates that are holding you back. So how many of those folks, people that come to you, Megan, of the working poor that don't have housing, are they working part-time, full-time, or how is that? Is there an income level?
There's a mix of folks. I have folks that are looking for employment. They're not even working at all. Folks that are working part-time, and people that are working full-time and still struggling. I have had clients that are working full-time and maybe 2 jobs and they're living out of their vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's ridiculous. And then sometimes they've come to us and not even had gas to get to work, so things like that, we're able to provide them with gas cards, bus tickets. But if we can get you sheltered, that's kind of the goal. But sometimes things don't work like that. If you call me at 4:55 on a Friday, I'm probably not going to be able to get you housed, unfortunately. So that's why it's important for us to present at the table and advocate and push for these things and understand, we go home and we have a roof over our head, but can you just imagine a family sleeping in their vehicle the whole weekend? And so that's just a very traumatic experience for the entire family.
Well, Colonel, it's amazing that you would say that, because at that very same time that you were talking about livable wages, Michael Chapman says that's why it's important to raise the minimum wage up to a livable wage level. So you two on the same wavelength. But Megan, I'd like to ask you this. I know here in Portsmouth area, a lot of times the housing, there are not that many places to house those who are, some people say that, tell me now, we at the sheriff's office, we house some of the homeless population in the city of Portsmouth in our work center. Now, but I hear a lot of them saying now that I'm not homeless, I'm just houseless. I just don't have a house. I'm not homeless. I'm making money. I just don't have a house to live in. But how accessible is the housing on the peninsula? Because I know it's not that accessible here in the Portsmouth area.
We deal with the same issues. So I think it might just be a Hampton Roads, thing. As Thomas was mentioning, it's funny enough, I live in Virginia Beach, and every time I look up, there's a brand new condominium popping up or brand new this. You already know it's going to be at least $2,500 to $3,000. Now, who has that for rent? Realistically, so we can say that we're building more communities, but they're not affordable.
Not affordable
at all. So it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing too is a roadblock that the system or the policies that we put out there, and especially those who are, say, Leo, you're talking about if you have a felony,
yes.
That is a big negative for one in employment, and also and with that, it shoots off into my housing. when I put in that on my housing application to rent someplace. Also, those who are in the mix, I've been charged, or I'm in the mix of in the system, but I haven't gone to court yet, because it's on the application says, have you been charged? Even though I haven't been convicted, on the application, since you got charged, for those who are renting property to you, you're basically dead in the water. And so it's going to throw a whole host of people out there also, especially if you look at the statistics that the law system seeks out to get people of color on that end, on the other side of the law, more than our counterparts on the other side that can walk with the same charge.
And it's very disheartening, because I've worked with a number of clients who have had, formerly incarcerated, were younger, made some maybe not the best decisions, but they have completely changed their life around. But because I'm a felon, it affects housing, it affects job searching and things like that. So it's very disheartening to see somebody who wants to do better, who's trying to provide for their family, and they're getting turned down left and right. It's disheartening for me to watch. So I can't even imagine what they're going through. And sometimes, unfortunately, I've had clients maybe revert back to some old ways, because it's like, you know what, it's easier for me to go do what I was doing before than to be on the straight and narrow. And so I think we need to work on that as well, and just that reform piece, and giving people a chance, and really they pay their debt. They're showing you that they're trying to do better. And so they should be awarded that opportunity.
You're so right, Megan,
Yeah,
because I watch
Megan,
many of the young people, some of the people who get out of our jail system here in Portsmouth. They come out, their mindset is to do right. They come out, they don't have housing. They end up sleeping in abandoned houses or abandoned cars. Then they get a charge for trespassing. Then they're right back into the system again. But the point of the matter is, there isn't affordable housing that they can get into in order to not be a part of that vicious cycle. James, you're about to say something, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask Megan, the Colonel mentioned about policies, and you mentioned about affordable housing, and you get that tag of affordable housing, and the politicians will look at that, okay, we're doing something with these affordable housing, which are not really affordable. Do you know if you as a nonprofit, or your organization, are they a part of a nonprofit lobbying group that makes sure that they lobby state and federal politicians, or state or federal officials, to let them know, what the needs really are, because sometimes it can be distorted.
You're right. It is funny you said that. We went to a town hall meeting about a month or so ago, and it was a really great meeting, because there were judges there were politicians there, local law enforcement, and it was just a great opportunity for us to talk about. So we were specifically discussing substance use issues. But from there, I was able to set up a meeting with one of the senators, and I was talking to him about some of the stuff that we're talking about right now. And he thought that was useful, and he was going to present it because he had a meeting in Richmond later on the afternoon. But we were realizing that a lot of money goes to crisis services. And how can we allocate some of those money to prevention, some of that money towards follow-up services, rather than, oh, you're getting arrested, oh, you're being locked down in crisis or something like that. How do we allocate that money towards maintenance and therapy and programs and housing and stuff like that, to prevent somebody being in a crisis, and all of our money and resources? And then, a lot of the folks in the human services field, you're burned out, especially when you're operating in crisis mode all the time, trying to serve clients. So we've been getting out there a bit more. COVID kind of slowed us down, but 2022 was a pretty good year, and I'm looking forward to 2023, and just kind of networking and talking to folks and letting people know what it is that we do, and how do we pool our resources together, because not one agency can do it.
Exactly.
Right. That's why I was talking
Exactly.
about you get together and form a
Mhm.
lobbying group,
Yeah.
because you have to get to those policymakers because that's where it all happens. That's where the money flows from. And, and like you're saying, if you're going in there dealing with just crisis, then prevention and you know, after treatments get lost in the sauce. So,
They definitely do. And
yeah.
the money is not, I feel like, not distributed evenly
Hmm.
when it should be. The focus again is those hospitalizations and being, in the judicial system and things like that. And how can we prevent that? Or how can you came out of that, how can we maintain and help folks out so that they don't return to certain things? So
Mhm.
You have you seen that because your experience, you've been with Portsmouth Behavioral Services, you've been with the Salvation Army. Is this something that's common amongst all those groups? And I'm asking that because that's why it would make sense to have a coalition of all those groups to be strong enough to make some noise.
so your question is, what have I seen that's common?
Yeah, have you seen, has it been common of all the different jobs that you've been with Portsmouth Behavioral
Oh,
Services,
yes.
Salvation Army,
Mhm.
was a little different in some of the services, but still the same,
Yes. Yeah, definitely. With the Salvation Army, before I started working, I always thought it was just the bell ringing outside of
Yeah,
Walmart.
remember you
Hmm.
came on the
Hmm.
show
Yes.
and the title of
Yes.
the show was we're not just bell ringers.
We're
And
not just bell ringers. I
yeah,
had no idea. I mean, Salvation Army is fantastic. You have the Toys for Tots, they have utility assistance. And when I was with them, I oversaw a transitional housing program for homeless women and children. And so again, I was sitting at a table with partnering agencies, and we were pooling our resources together to get folks in and out. So with me, folks stayed for up to 6 months. So, if I can get them into permanent supportive housing or whatever the case may be, let's get them into something more permanent. That frees up a bed. You send a referral to me and let's just keep this thing flowing. So,
Hmm. An interesting discussion. We get back to policy, and I'm watching the dysfunction that we have out, on the federal level.
Yes.
I look at the Confederate governor that we have here in the state of Virginia that is trying to take credit for all of the good stuff that the previous Democratic governor put forward, to include the pay raises, the bonuses, healthcare, how we got us out of COVID, so on and so forth. And I've seen nothing but negative stuff come down to him. He wants to revive CRT training and stuff like that. So what I'm fear for is, next year he's going to have to put his first budget out, and he's not going to have the federal dollars coming from the federal government, the COVID money. And then so the Commonwealth is going to see what this is going to take the blinders off and actually peek behind the hood that he wears every day that people don't see, and to see what kind of budget he has. And you're going to see how he's going to cut things that help people in crisis, especially that you're helping them with now, Megan, and for your population. So do you have a crystal ball to see to tell how things are going to go, or your compadres are talking about, the budget cuts are coming?
we haven't had that discussion. Honestly, working in nonprofit and receiving federal grants, we know that that can happen. I mean, it happened when I was with the Salvation Army. We lost a significant federal grant because they were shifting the focus. And it was unfortunate because what we were doing was a need, but you know, the powers that be decided that money needs to go
Mhm.
here and here. So we had to be creative, and thankfully we have donors and other entities that believed in the mission and continued to help us fund. And before I left, we had built some additional homes. So they're going strong, they're doing well. So I imagine it's the same thing with my current position. We stay on top of our game in the senior leadership to say, okay, if this were to happen, this is where we need to pivot and kind of reorganize the budget and things like that. So, I mean, we understand that it can happen anytime. You know, it depends on who's in the office and who's doing this and who's doing that and what they believe in and what they don't believe in. So, and it trickles down and it affects us. It affects the clients that we serve. So it's important to get out there and vote and make sure your voice is heard.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Megan, what you do mostly now is mostly intake. I know you've had jobs before where you got out there, behavioral health or whatever, and you got out there in the communities. I don't know if you do that much in the communities now. It's mostly intake.
It's mostly folks are coming to us. I have had positions like when I worked in Portsmouth, we were more so going into the homes, but clients do come to us. If someone decides that they're interested in follow-up services, then we can come to them, because it's important. Not only do you receive services with us, but how do we provide you with the tools and resources to make sure that you maintain housing or whatever your goals may be. I'd rather a client reach out to me ahead of time before I find out you're about to get evicted again.
Yeah.
And so,
go
yeah, go ahead.
No, I asked that because, especially when you're dealing with mental health, you have that stigma in the communities. And that can affect even the people that want to come into you, because in their community, they say, oh, we don't deal with mental health. I think it's getting a lot better now because a lot more information is getting out there to people and people realize they need the help. But that's a big part of a challenge for you all as well, the stigma in especially in the African-American communities with mental health and even homelessness,
Yes,
like
yes, I think
Leah mentioned, I'm not homeless, I'm just, what would you say?
I'm
Just
houseless. I'm houseless.
It sounds the same to me.
It sounds the same to me too.
That's the first time I heard that one, but
yeah,
there is so much stigma. And I do, like you said, I do feel like it is getting better because we're talking about it. But I remember I took a course years ago and we were talking about, African Americans and mental health and the stigma that's around it. And it's like, well, I don't talk to therapists, I talk to Jesus. I give it to Jesus. And,
I'm going to
and
my
whole
pastor.
thing is,
my pastor tells me what I need.
My pastor. But I'm like, well, okay, who do you think Jesus put these therapists down
Thank
here?
you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with talking to someone. Don't let things bottle up, especially I see two African American men are told to be strong, not to cry, that you're weak and things like that. And that's not that at all. So, if you need to talk to somebody, you talk to somebody, and it could be your pastor. It could be God, but it can be a combination of things, and it's okay.
Combination, yes.
Yes. Megan, is it publishable? I don't know if you can say this. How many houses or places that you can place folks, and what is your occupancy rate?
So my current position, we do not have housing. However, that is something that's one of my goals for this year, is to become a housing provider and add that to our services, because we receive referrals and we can, refer them out to housing, but I think it would be awesome to be able to just do that right on in-house and say, hey, we did your intake, we're going to move you into such and such unit. So I would love to be able to do that. So that is on my list of things to work on this year. The need is there, folks that are coming to us, again, like I said earlier, they need showers, they need food, they need things like that. I really don't care about anything else Bacon Street has to offer. I need a house. And so I've been advocating for that in the workplace and just letting folks know there's that importance. And then once I address that, you know what, I am open. I've let my guard down. I feel safe and secure. I'm ready to work on these other areas in my life.
you know, that would be a great opportunity for people that say they want to give back to the community. You know, if they have houses, you know, you have people out here that have multiple houses, and at least maybe one of those houses could be dedicated to a program like yours. I guess if the word got out about, you know, that's an opportunity for somebody who wants to give back, they can give back in that way. That's just a
Just a thought.
that's just a thought.
That's just a
Throwing it out
slim.
there.
Might
That's
not
just
be might not be reality, but
it's just a Slim Nation moment. That's
it's
all.
a slim
It
nation
was.
moment.
It was.
No, I mean, I said it might
But
not be
it's a good thing.
reality,
It
but
would be a
there
great
are
thing.
people,
It would
out
be.
there that want to give back, and they just don't
No.
know how. You know,
Yeah,
and
I
that could be
agree.
a possibility if they knew.
And not only for the people, but it's time for our legislators to realize that there need to be places built and provided for these individuals. You know, you just can't keep having people sleeping out on the streets and then providing the services that they need to learn in order to how to maintain what it is that you're putting them into. So you got to give some training along with the housing units that you may have to put in. So it's time for the legislators to step up to the plate and realize that there's truly a need for the homeless population, housing for them.
Yeah, it
Right.
goes back to voting because
It does. It
you know
does.
what the right is trying to do. They want to
Yeah.
cut everything.
And
Yeah,
you know, you always hear the, pull yourself up your bootstraps. And I'm like,
exactly.
well, some folks don't even have boots.
Don't have boots.
Yeah.
So
What you gonna
what
pull
am I
yourself up by?
pulling? And I try to explain that to some folks, and then I don't want to turn it into a political situation in the workplace, but I'm like, some folks don't even have the boots or
That's right.
socks or whatever. So what do you mean? It's not that
Exactly.
easy for everyone.
If
Exactly.
they had
Some
them, they
folks,
would.
the playing field isn't level, so we need
Uh-huh.
to be understanding of that.
That's very true.
Well, you
Very
know what? It all boils down to policy, and we always talk about in voting. But those folks that talk about it, you're talking about the politicians that you ask them, they need to know. They already know, but they will put more money into the prison system in an attempt to lock up everybody,
Mhm.
and because they can make money on the back end of that, because with the private prisons and
Yes.
some of the other things. And so that is the policies that they advocate, but they'll never come out and say, hey, that's the way we want to go.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Of course
We have so
not.
many prisons in the state of Virginia that are privately run and through the state that if they just took a tenth of that money that they're shelling out, we could solve a lot of these problems that we talked about today. But it'll never get there because the other side is making so much money.
Right. Mhm.
Megan, as far as people, students going into the field of community service and things like that, is that attractive for students? And if you had the opportunity to go to, say, IC Norcom or Princess Anne High School to talk to students, what would you say to them, as far as them thinking about careers in community service or, the field like you're in now? Because I know the need is there. We
It
just
is.
have to be convinced that this is something that, could be, it's something that we need,
Right.
there's a need out there for.
Well, I think, talking to anybody, any student or just anyone that's considering something, figure out is this even what you're passionate about? Because you have to have a passion for this. We
Exactly.
don't receive a large paycheck
That's
at
right.
all.
That's right.
So you have to enjoy what you do, because we deal with heavy stuff day in and day out. And so we have to be prepared for that. But if this is something and your heart is in it, I say go for it and kind of research, because there's so many different directions you can go in the human services field, whether you want to be a social worker, you want to be a clinician, you want to work in probation. I mean, there's so many different angles and directions that you can go in. So you want to do the research. I recommend, even talking to folks. People are happy to talk to you if you schedule ahead of time, reaching out and maybe interviewing and stuff like that. I've had students come to me and ask questions, wanting to learn more to figure out, is this what I want to get into? And then just kind of going from there. But one thing I will say is I'm a huge advocate of self-care once you enter this field or any field, honestly. You know, I tell my staff all the time, if you are burned out, you're no good to anyone.
Exactly. Exactly.
So please be able to balance, take care of yourself. Do not email me, talk to me, nothing when you're on vacation. Same goes for me. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm,
spend time with your family, go for a walk, burn a candle, read a book, do whatever you need to do to recharge. And then
mhm,
you can go out and do what you need to do for the clients that we serve. So if nothing else, I tell folks to make sure you focus on self-care.
mhm.
Sometimes counselors need counselors.
They do.
They do.
And nothing's wrong with it. Is
Well, I
none.
mean, for what you,
I believe in that. Yes, I am a firm believer. Please go talk to somebody.
Mhm, mhm. But Megan, when we go back to the services that you provide, do you find that on the peninsula that you have a lot of students who are homeless? And what services are provided for these students who are homeless besides transportation to school?
I've had a few students. I probably, when I was working on the South Side, I had more, but I've definitely had some students, and it's unfortunate. I've had some folks that are 18, so technically they're an adult, but 18, we're not grown
No, no,
at all.
no.
And it's so unfortunate. So we've worked very closely with school social workers, school psychologists, trying to find those resources and opportunities for those young adults, because it's a weird time in your life where, again, you're legally an adult, but honestly, you're still a child. You know, you still got to graduate high school. There's so much that you haven't learned. And I have worked with folks that are 18, 19 years old, and they may have phased out of something or
Mhm,
family kicked them out, but they don't know how to pay rent. They don't even know
mhm,
how to clean their house and things like that. So that's when my staff and I, we make sure we tailor our services to that person's need, you know.
mhm.
So if I'm working at a place where we provide housing, I've had to physically show someone, this is how you sweep the kitchen floor.
Right, right,
This
right.
is how you this is how you balance your checkbook or things
Mhm,
like that. And you have to be understanding. Yes, this person is grown, they look grown, they sound grown, but they're not.
mhm,
And I work with folks older than that. And so we need to make sure that um, we take a step back and tailor our services to meet folks' needs. And that's
mhm,
not to disrespect anyone or make them feel little, but understanding that some folks have never had a house or never had anyone to show them how to do
mhm,
certain things.
mhm.
And
Right.
so, you know, we want to make sure that we provide them with that care, but also doing so with dignity and respect.
And look, and Michael wants you to share some of your greatest success stories in providing services to your clients. This is coming
It
from Michael Chapman.
it would
I
be
said it
coming from
would,
Michael
it would.
Chapman.
that's the
It
kind of
sound
stuff
like
we
a
talk
Michael,
about Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
it sound like a Michael Chapman question. So one of the greatest stories when I was at the Salvation Army, we had a woman who was sleeping in her car, literally sleeping in her car. Her husband had left her, and one of the working poor. And so she got into her program, and we housed her and everything. And um, she worked like 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, she was on the go. She was a little bit guarded at first, but I think she started to get comfortable and let her guard down and continue to work with us. And before the 6 months was up, she moved into her own place. She had moved out Newport News, and she was in our follow-up program. So we always stayed in contact. And I remember her telling me one day she had seen this house, and she would drive past it and she was like, that's gonna be my house one day. That's gonna be my house. So eventually she saw a for sale sign up. And about a year later, she closed on that house. And so it was so amazing to see somebody in about a year and a half time to go from literally sleeping in her car to she just bought a house.
Mhm, mhm,
And I went over there, goes, you know, seeing, she was so proud of it. And it was a cute little house. And those are the things that make you, that remind you of why you do what you
why you
do.
do what you do.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I always ask her, I said, please come back and share your testimony, because I
Mhm,
can talk to folks all day, but
exactly.
you literally went through it, you lived it. Please share with folks how
Mhm,
you did this and
mhm.
what you felt, you know, when as you went through this process. And she would happily do it for us all the time. But those are the things that just really keep you motivated.
Mhm.
And you know, Megan, I'm thinking now to, I just finished this session with the city of Portsmouth. We haven't finished yet, but it's called Bloomberg Harvard Study, looking at a new way of developing programs, putting new strategies in place. And the one thing that we truly learned is that when trying to get your strategic plan in place, you need to have those individuals who are in need of your services involved in the strategic planning. So as you're moving to do your strategic plans as to what you need to do next, do you bring these individuals in and engage them in the process? Have you done it, or would you think about something or doing something of that nature?
That's this is very smart. We had just spent some time last summer working on our strategic plan, but you know what, that makes so much sense. And
Because they
that's
know what the
something
needs are. They know
I'm
what the needs
actually
are.
I'm gonna take that to work.
Let me
That
tell you,
is
let
very
me tell you, it
that
works.
is
It works very well. We found out
that's
during this year's study, you know.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I know that there's some boards that have folks that are, you know, a recipient of
Mhm,
whatever agency services
exactly.
and things like that. So they hear from people uh what their need is and what they don't need and blah blah blah. So that's really smart. I'm gonna bring that to work tomorrow.
Very good, very good.
Yeah,
You
because
may have it, Megan, from me to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Leah, I think that Bloomberg study, if the administration and the elected officials take a hold of it and don't put it on the shelf like a lot of things go,
I'm
I
telling
think
you.
it's something that can work because nothing else has worked up until this point. I mean, to the
Exactly.
point where we can see a difference. And I think this program, your presentation you made today,
Hmm.
you know, if our elected officials listen, and it's going to be up to us to make sure that they listen, and the administration as well, and put some of these things that y'all come up with in into action, I think we'll see a difference.
And
Hopefully.
just a footnote on that, Megan. We had 14 people from different parts of government, different genders, um, different beliefs, different attitudes,
Have some young
come
people
together
too.
to look at one problem
Right.
and then to come together with engaging the community
Mm,
to look at that problem again. We framed the problem as we saw it, but then
okay.
to bring the public in to reframe that problem in the correct way to meet the needs of those individuals. It works. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Which makes sense because when you have so many, so I'm really huge on talking through things with my staff or interns because I may see things one particular way, but if I bring in other visions and I'm like, well, you know what, I didn't look at it like that.
Never
Like
thought
you
of that.
just shared
Exactly.
something with me that I'm taking back to
Exactly.
work. So I think that that's a really great idea
Hmm.
because you get to hear from folks with different backgrounds and demographic
Uh-huh.
information and make a better decision, you know, a
Yeah.
well-informed decision. So,
Yeah, because when we come to the table, we come through the lens that we've seen it through,
right.
you know, and someone else can come. I'm often reminded of say when John F. Kennedy was discussing the Bay of Pigs and they were trying to figure out what was going on in Cuba. But
Yes.
it took one person who was knowledgeable of Russia and the types of games that the Russians played that they were able to to discern the fact that it was Russia who was over there in Cuba. You know, so when you bring in the different people from different backgrounds, you get such a much better picture of how things are and what's taking place in
Right.
situations. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, that's talking about diversity of thought and also of who's sitting at the table. And
Yes.
that's a prime example.
I
And
agree. Yeah.
that doesn't exist in a lot of places,
Exactly. Exactly.
especially, you know, in state government, especially now
Yeah.
uh, that we have a Confederate governor out there. But saying that is, you mentioned about like kids being thrown out of the house earlier. I think there was somebody stated that, and you know, you talk about the young lady that was divorced, was living in a car. But have you seen an increase in the human trafficking in
Mm.
of young folks or of that are out there that need your services, and how would they, or what can you do for them?
Right. So I haven't directly worked with a client that has been, you know, involved in human trafficking, but there is an increased awareness. I went to a training some years ago, and I didn't realize how heavy human trafficking was right here in Hampton Roads. And the presenter was saying something about human trafficking is heavy in New York and down in Atlanta, and we're the midway point. And then you have the truck stops, you have we're a big military area, things like that. So you have these rings that go around. So it's these really great tips that this person provided and things that we need to be aware of and looking for, whether it's girls with certain tattoos that, you know, that marks that we belong to this John, or folks that are even being trafficked to work these insane amount of hours and things like that. So, you know, I have not worked directly with anyone, but we do have resources out here in Hampton Roads where we can make referrals to folks that specifically work with human trafficking, because human trafficking goes beyond just, you know, sexual exploitation. It's employment exploitation, things like that. So yes, I did not realize how heavy it was until a couple of years ago, right here in Hampton Roads.
Right
Yes,
in Hampton Roads.
yes.
That's a whole nother show in itself,
It
you
It
know,
is. It really
especially
is.
right here in Hampton Roads. And you see every day these people are going, some people are going missing. And like you said, it's
Yeah.
not only sexual exploitation, it's, you know, overworking somebody, or, you know, it's crazy. So hopefully we'll tackle that at some point. We're getting close, but I want to right now, if the hosts have any other questions or comments that they like to make, and then we'll end up with Dr. Franco with closing statements. But
Well, Dr. Franco, coming from me, I'd just like to say thank you so very much for gracing us with your presence on today. You really provided some valuable information. And I'm just so appreciative that you would choose to sacrifice to take on this task, because it is a sacrifice, because as you say, you really don't make a lot of money. So you have to have the passion for it. And I can tell that you truly have a passion for working with people and assisting people to give them a head start, you know? And so I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that you chose to come on. I'm thankful that you chose to share this information with us on today. And take that strategy, run with it. You're going to find yourself in another place once you use it, okay? Take that strategy. But once again, I want to say thank you so very much. Even if you are related to those two to my left, it's okay. It's okay. All right.
It's all right.
You're the rose. You're the rose between the two thorns, okay? But thank you. Thank you so very much.
Wait till your family comes back up here.
I know. But thank you so very much for coming on and sharing that valuable information with us at this time. And once you put the plan in place, I want you to come back and tell me how well did it work for you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I had to throw this in. Michael Chapman just put up here. What kind of mental health services can you provide for Portsmouth City Council? Okay, Michael.
Come on, Michael. Don't mess with Portsmouth City Council.
Okay, Michael. Please. You live in Hampton, so you can't talk either, brother.
In fact, we got a new council now. It's a new day in Portsmouth. This is a rebirth. It's a rebirth. It's a new day. And we're looking for great things to take place in the city of Portsmouth, Michael. And Michael, you're going to see in the coming months, Portsmouth, Virginia is going to shine. It's going to outshine all the other cities around us. Pay attention, Michael.
Yeah. So saying that, I will piggyback on what you said, and also what my brother said, Michael said, that yes, Portsmouth is changing. We have a new city council. That first thing they did is get rid of the
come on, Colonel.
They got rid of her, and so the city manager, and so that is a step in the right direction. And then next thing you know, we've got 2 city council members that we need to get rid of also. But saying that, Megan, thanks for coming on and sharing your plethora of knowledge and what you're doing out there for society and for this area. But what I want to see also, though, and I'm going to give you the tip here, is we want to see more of publications from you, and then to get you out on the Speakers Bureau across the nation, so you can spread what you're doing out there for others to be doing that. And so I'm challenging you and challenge you to that next step in your path to greatness, which you are in, you know.
I accept that challenge.
Yeah. Well, I like to say I had the privilege of watching Megan grow up into the fine young lady she is now. And I'm not surprised, because I saw it, you know, the whole time. She was always a bright young lady, a bright girl, and then a young lady, and then a lady like she is now. And I want to say that Portsmouth Coffee Talk, we deal with a lot of Portsmouth issues, but a lot of our subjects that go beyond our borders into the Hampton Roads. And well, anyway, Megan is still there. But anyway, and so I'm glad you came here, because it might be some people over here on this side of the river that have family members in your service area and don't know where to go. And now they do. They know where to refer some of their family members that they know that might need your services or your help. So
yeah.
And so James and Megan, maybe you should tell the name of your services and where it's located again.
sure.
Yes.
And the phone number.
Okay. So it's Bacon Street Youth and Family Services. We have office in Williamsburg, Gloucester, Yorktown, Hampton. We'll even come to you wherever you may be located on the peninsula. Our number is 757-253-0111. We provide counseling services, social services, prevention services. If you just want to learn more, you can go to our website at www.baconstreet.org, like a piece of bacon, street.org. Again, and I'll make sure I share my information with the host. So if you all need to post it or anything like that, for anybody that might not have had a pen right now, but you know, thank you all for having such a positive platform in which we can just discuss these issues and letting folks know what resources are available to them, because a lot of times people don't even know what's available to them right here in their own backyard. So, you know, thank you all for this.
One thing about our guests, it's always an opportunity for them to come back because of the type of information they share. And so it's always something that we don't want to do a one-hit wonder and never deal with it again, because some conversations need to be talked about over and over again, you know, because if you miss it this time, you catch it next time. Absolutely. And of course, this is going to be on our YouTube channel, so it'll be out there, but we will have you back, Megan. Next time we'll get you up early in the morning for the Monday morning.
That's
show.
fine. And when I come back, I have to tell Leah how that strategic planning.
You have to tell me.
Yes.
And plus, Megan, you have to tell your friends to go and subscribe to Portsmouth Coffee Talk YouTube page.
I will.
Okay.
Will.
And they can see you forever and ever. Okay.
I will. Well, thank you all so much. This is a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe Zuri will tune in.
There's no telling what your grandbaby might do.
Yeah, how about that? Okay, thanks everybody, and we appreciate it. And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
our community,
and our future.
And salute you, Megan.
Dr. Franco, we
thank you so very much.
Thank you, Megan.
Dr. Franco. Dr. Franco. We salute you, Dr. Franco.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Have a great night.
All right.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.